Should the Arizona Diamondbacks do everything they can to keep Christian Walker a member of this organization? And while we're talking about that, let's also talk about trading Zac Gallen. Why not? It's one of those days right here on the PHNX Diamondbacks podcast. Don't go anywhere. We're starting in 30 seconds. No ski today. Welcome in, though, to the PHNX Diamondbacks podcast right here on PHNX. My name is Derek Montilla, occasionally known as your mayor of PHNX, and still, based on poll results, your mayor of PHNX. This man next to me is my vice mayor, the one and only Thunderstick, Jesse Friedman. And, of course, we got the one and only large intimate Kevin Thomas on the ones and twos today. Welcome in, everybody, to the PHNX Diamondbacks podcast. Of course, we don't have the best news today. I'm not going to lie to you. We are here talking about losing some of our most valued players today on the Arizona Diamondbacks. But I think that we kind of might make some good cases why keeping Christian Walker is a good idea, and maybe, just maybe, why at least thinking about trading Zac Gallen might also be a good idea. Of course, we'll also give you the reasons why that's an absolutely terrible idea as well. But first, when it comes to Christian Walker, we did get kind of, I guess some rumors from MLB Trade Rumors. That's what they do. They create those rumors around there. But when making predictions for the top 50 free agents in Major League Baseball, MLB Trade Rumors, Dara McDonald and Anthony Franco predicted that first baseman Christian Walker would leave the Arizona Diamondbacks and join the New York Yankees, as I already predicted, of course. Now, MLB Trade Rumors predicted Walker to sign a 3-year, $60 million deal in free agency. And that is, of course, a big need for them since they turned down the option on Anthony Rizzo, who may or may not have cost them, at least in one situation, during the World Series there. But Jesse, let's talk about it. Christian Walker to the Yankees, not the best scenario. I mean, I guess there's worst case scenarios where he goes to another team in the National League West. Yeah. So at least him leaving the National League altogether is one silver lining there.
Well, before I get to that, Derek, are you holding a baseball glove?
I am holding a baseball glove.
Just for the heck of it?
Yeah.
Just
what happened to your ball? Where's your ball?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Here you go.
Right, there you go.
Right, yeah, we're gonna just gonna throw the ball back and forth.
That's what
I guess
we're gonna have a catch.
Yeah, well, we could do it like whichever one of us is talking has to be holding the ball. Is that what we should do?
That probably is good for a day like this, at least so that way we could take turns dealing with this. But yeah, no, I mean, Christian Walker, of course, I mean, I don't know. There's something about hearing him sign a 3-year, $60 million deal that makes me say, why not keep him right here as an Arizona Diamondback for that amount?
Yeah, I do think you referenced the MLB Trade Rumors article. They have four different writers over there who contributed to this piece, and none of the four picked Christian Walker to re-sign with the Diamondbacks. There's someone picking the Tigers, someone picking the Astros, and then two people, as you mentioned, picking the Yankees. And yeah, I do think it is a reasonable question. Like, if you were willing to give Walker a 1-year, $21.05 million contract offer, which is the qualifying offer, then, why not just bring him back for basically that exact same amount? Just, tack on 2 more years onto that. That's basically what the projected contract for Christian Walker is. I will say that I think that contract is much less risky in a 1-year deal than it is if you extend it out over 3 seasons, right? It's easier to bet on 34-year-old Christian Walker than it is 35-year-old, 36-year-old Christian Walker. But yeah, there's a reason why we've kind of been saying from the beginning that the best way to replace Christian Walker is probably to just bring him back. And it's not like the amount that you would pay to do that is so outrageous, right? There is risk involved, absolutely. But if you're willing to give him that 1-year offer, maybe you're willing to take a little bit of a risk and extend it out a couple more seasons.
Chris made me laugh. Piggy's got the conch. That's definitely a reference I understand. Zach in the chat is speaking on Gallen's behalf, and his name is ZAC. So maybe this is the real Zac Gallen. I have no way of telling. He says, I really think Gallen hates Lovello even more than I do. Wouldn't be shocked if he left. He can't leave, but he could be traded, and we will talk about that. But also wouldn't be shocked if Zac Gallen does leave at the end of his deal, because he's going to get a much bigger contract than Christian Walker. And I think that's one thing that you could debate here. I think that there is the potential to keep Christian Walker here, whereas when you talk about someone of Zac Gallen's caliber and how much money he's going to make, it's a bit more understandable that the Diamondbacks wouldn't necessarily pursue him next offseason to bring him back. It's not to say that they won't, but it's just going to be much harder to sign him than Christian Walker at 3 years, $60 million, right? Like you said, they were going to pay him $21.05 million as a qualifying offer. If you're already committed to him for 1 year, I guess the risk there is the extra 2 years, but why not accept that risk? Why not take that risk? At one point in his time, multiple times as GM of this team, Mike Hazen has said letting Paul Goldschmidt go was one of the biggest mistakes that he felt that he made. And then obviously they traded Goldie in a situation much similar to what we're going to talk about here with potentially trading Zac Gallen. However, Christian Walker is very much Goldschmidt. I mean, in a way, it's just so amazing how this kind of thing. Now, he's not the same legend.
I don't know about that,
No,
Derek.
here's what
I
I'll
don't know
say.
about that.
Hold on. Here's what I'll say. Let me finish this up. I'll say that he's right now for this team. It's the same exact situation. You're now considering maybe going to Goldschmidt as a cheaper option than Christian Walker, when Christian Walker right now is one of the best first basemen in baseball. And he is kind of not that expensive in the grand scheme of things. Almost the same amount, like 5 years, $100 million was what it was going to cost to keep Goldschmidt. This is 3 years, $60 million. I think the thing about this with Walker is it's very similar to Goldschmidt in the fact that Walker could be a leader in the clubhouse. He is a guy that the players look up to and very much respect. So he, especially for a clubhouse that's going to continue to consist of young players that are 25 years and maybe even younger than that, he could absolutely be that clubhouse leader that the Diamondbacks need. And I mean, it would also demonstrate to the players in the organization that if you contribute to this franchise and you help them win, that they will value you and reward you. And I think that's a very important thing for a team that's going to build from the minor leagues, that's going to build from young players, and that essentially you do want those young players to consider staying with the Arizona Diamondbacks organization long-term rather than just waiting for their contract to be up and signing elsewhere. This needs to be a desirable location to stay, and it should be for all intents and purposes based on the I guess the benefits to being here in Arizona, especially where spring training is played, and especially in an area that has such nice weather for at least part of the year when other cities don't, right? But I just think that there's
during baseball season, I wouldn't say the weather is great.
For like 4 months here, it's awful. But yeah, that's the only thing. But
4 months,
yeah, just 4 months, it's awful. May through August, pretty much, and then things start getting better. But I mean, again, it's just a matter, I think, of showing some of the players on the roster that, again, like Christian Walker was a guy they picked up from waivers in 2017. It doesn't matter where you came from or how they acquired you. If you are a guy that came on and helped this team become a winner in the way that they have over the last 2 seasons, that you should be rewarded and brought back, like kind of what they did for Lourdes, right? Like, I mean, something similar to that. I would love to see that for Christian Walker, just based on these numbers that I'm hearing. Again, if this contract was much higher and they were talking about a team like the Yankees paying, close to 50% more than this for Walker, then I would understand the Diamondbacks kind of being out of it.
Couple of things on the qualifying offer. I had some people comment on Twitter when I tweeted out about that, saying, is that an insult to Walker and his camp? Like a 1 year, $21 million, like that doesn't seem like a serious offer. And that's fair to an extent, but it's really just part of the process. Walker is not going to be put off by this or anything.
Sure.
I'm sure he understands it is in the Diamondbacks' best interest to extend this offer, even though no one actually expects Walker to accept it. Also relating to the qualifying offer, we've talked about how the Diamondbacks would get draft pick compensation if Walker signed elsewhere, that being the primary motivation to extend the offer in the first place.
He has to sign for more than $50 million, right?
Well, so you get draft pick compensation no matter how much the contract is for, but where that pick falls does depend on the value of the deal. So I thought that was worth mentioning. If Walker goes somewhere else and signs for $50 million or more, then the Diamondbacks will get a draft pick between the first round and competitive balance round A, which is usually in like the low 30s somewhere.
Yeah,
so it's a pretty
good.
high, pretty high draft pick. If, however, Walker goes elsewhere and signs for below $50 million, then the Diamondbacks would get that pick between the second round and competitive balance round B. So that would fall more in the 70s range. And for the Diamondbacks, you feel fairly confident that this the total value of the deal is going to push north of $50 million. Pretty much everyone seems to be expecting that.
Yeah, because if you don't, again, there's no reason to not keep him unless it's a 2-year deal, right? And that could be the only thing that kind of sinks this is if he gets like $45 million from a team for 2 years.
Yeah, but I do think that the fact that it's probably going to be more than $50 million makes it so that the value of that draft pick is higher, right? It's a better draft pick. It's going to be a pretty darn good draft pick. I know Ken Rosenthal over at The Athletic did a story beginning of this year, I think, about how much a draft pick in that range is worth, like to a team. You know, they have their internal models and whatnot. They're trying to put dollar values on basically everything. Like to an organization, how much money do they think a draft pick in that range is worth? And Rosenthal asked a few executives. It was a really interesting story. And they valued a pick in this range at anywhere between around $10 million and $25 million. Wow. Which is sort of crazy to think about. It's just a draft pick. Like this guy might not even make the majors, right?
Right.
But teams have their models, they have their systems, and that's the value that they've put on that. So
by it being a low 30ish draft pick, you're increasing the odds that they are going to make the major leagues, or at least at one point they're going to be a tradable asset that you can essentially use to get other pieces sent back to you, which of course is in baseball can be just as important, especially with how stingy teams are to trade assets that would be essentially this high of a pick. So I mean, again, it's there's just tons of value there, whether it's an actual valuable player or just a valuable commodity that the Diamondbacks can use to get better. It is the biggest reason for the Diamondbacks to not bring Christian Walker back. Essentially, they're not going to get this with guys that walk next season, right? Like it's not going to be the same.
Gallen would get a qualifying offer, I'm sure. So the Diamondbacks would be in a similar position next offseason with him. But you feel it all the more with Walker in some ways because he's going to be just over that $50 million threshold, right?
Yeah.
Gallen feels like, I mean, Walker's a really important player for this team. Don't get me wrong, but Gallen feels like an even bigger loss, right? I mean, he's your staff ace. If you lose someone like Zac Gallen, then you know a draft pick in the low 30s doesn't necessarily feel like a great. A great consolation prize. Exactly. It doesn't feel like a great consolation prize for Walker either, but it's definitely going to factor into their calculus when making this decision.
Well, of course, that's unfortunate because as much as we don't want to see Christian Walker leave this team, we've already talked about there being some comparable players out there, including Paul Goldschmidt, that would probably cost the Diamondbacks much less than $21.05 million next year and significantly less than $60 million over the next 3 years. At this point, with where they're at financially, this might make the most sense for the Diamondbacks because we do know that they have other essentially positions that they still need to fill this offseason.
Yeah.
And they're not going to necessarily have the money to do that. Not nearly as much as they had last offseason. And again, they also found some pretty good deals in guys like Jock Peterson and Randall Grichuk. It'll be interesting to see if Mike Hazen can do it again this offseason. He's going to need as much capital as he can to make that happen. And of course, you know, not having one single player that's getting $20 million on the roster is a big help in regards to that.
The idea of a bidding war between the Diamondbacks and the Yankees, like that doesn't feel great, right? That doesn't exactly.
It doesn't feel like you're going to come out on the winning side.
It doesn't. No, it does not. And the Yankees, especially, you know, on the heels of a World Series appearance, on the heels of Anthony Rizzo And Garrett Cole had a role in it as well. But Anthony Rizzo, his defense did not exactly shine on the the brightest stage. And Christian Walker obviously is branded as the best defender at first base in all of baseball. So it's hard to imagine the Yankees allowing the Diamondbacks to get Christian Walker for 3-45, right? Or maybe even 3-50. It does feel like there's going to be some element of a bidding war here. The Yankees are going to be in the mix, almost certainly. The Mariners are another team.
They're not going to be the only ones, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
the Astros, I think, are a team that could probably use a first baseman. They had Jose Abreu this past year, and that did not work. And there's other teams too, like the Nationals. I think, like if they're looking at trying to invest, I think Christian Walker would be a great fit for them. The Cardinals, obviously, with them not expecting to bring Goldschmidt back, I don't think they would go after Christian Walker. But there's a number of teams that could use a first baseman, and I would rather give Christian Walker even if it's 3-65, then give Pete Alonso, 7 in 160, right? Or whatever that number is.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. There is no doubt about that. Christian Walker is one of those guys that's going to be a value for some inexplicable reason. Maybe it's due to the fact that he just kind of flies under the radar a bit. Maybe it's because he puts up good to pretty good offensive numbers, but it's really his defense over there that you just can't deny makes him, one of the best first basemen in all of baseball. So regardless, it's going to be a huge blow to this team if he does depart, and the Diamondbacks are going to have to figure out a way to replace him. They're also, like I said earlier, going to have to figure out quite a bit when it comes to this team and how they're going to stay competitive next season and beyond. And one way that they could do that is by trading Zac Gallen. And that's something I hate, maybe even more than this conversation that we're having right now. But why not? Let's just have it today. It's just one of those days. Michael Dixon in the chat, he brought up a good point about compensatory picks. He said there have been some really solid compensatory picks in the past. Joey Gallo, Josh Donaldson, David Wright, etc. And I mean, I do think that, again, when you're talking about that high in the draft, you're basically talking about getting like the 32nd first round draft pick, in a way you're like,
right out. Yeah. It's almost a first round pick.
Right. You know, so it might as well be that. And it might as well be something, of course, why, this might be something worthwhile for the Diamondbacks to not, I guess, pursue Christian Walker over. I don't know. I kind of hate it.
I wouldn't say it's a reason. Like it's
a consolation prize for losing one of the best.
It's part of the calculus. It should be factored in. If you do go out and sign him, then you are, in a sense, giving up this draft pick that there's sort of an opportunity cost there, I guess. But yeah, if a draft pick in the low 30s or wherever it lands, you look at the Diamondbacks' recent track record with the draft, like that might not be a star level player. Certainly no guarantees there, but there's a pretty good chance that a guy you take in the low 30s is going to contribute for you in the majors at some point.
Correct. Well, again, we will talk about another very unpleasant topic in regards to trading Zac Gallen on the other side of this break. So please, I beg you, don't go anywhere. Of course, unless that place you're going is to Empire Today to improve your home with some brand new flooring, and Empire Today is the place to go if you want to shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a price match guarantee. Of course, they are all about shopping at home. They are all about easy, quick, and convenient service, and they're about finding you what you need. They won't make you go through thousands of samples to find flooring that you're looking for. They will get down to the bottom of it by asking you a few questions, finding out exactly what you're looking for, and providing you with a curated product selection that won't waste your time. They also have their virtual floor designer, which is a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. All you have to do is snap a picture and instantly see how those new floors will look in your home. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 discount when they use promo code PHNX. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/PHNX for details. And also, of course, be part of Bet365 and the 90 million users worldwide that currently get down on the live in-game betting. Bet365 pioneered live in-game betting, and they offer the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. Right now, new customers can choose between 2 new offers when they open an account at Bet365. Just use that code of PHNX365 to sign up. When you do, deposit $10 and choose either between a bet and get offer, where you can place a bet of $5 or more and receive $150 in bonus bets, or a first bet safety net offer where you can place up to $1,000 bet. And if your qualifying bet loses, you will receive a matched refund in bonus bets. Download the Bet365 app right now and use that code of PHNX365 when you sign up. Choose your offer and find out why it is never ordinary at Bet365. Right now, must be 21 or over and physically located in Arizona. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT STEP to 53342, or visit problemgambling.az.gov. All right. Well, when it comes to unpleasant topics, nothing gets more unpleasant than the idea of trading away Zac Gallen, right? And we will preface this by saying we don't really think this is a good idea. However, there is some merit to it because at this point, the Diamondbacks are kind of in a predicament here, and they kind of need to figure out a way to, I guess, build this team beyond 2025. It's an important season. There's a lot of guys that have a contract year that are going to be, hopefully, theoretically, playing the best baseball of their lives. So what we do know is that Gallen is going to be one of them. We just kind of wonder if the Diamondbacks could get an absolute haul for him at this point. Like, obviously, depending on how the season goes, this is a topic that can be discussed much further down the road as we get towards the trade deadline if the Diamondbacks don't have success in 2025. However, there is the idea here that they could probably reap in the benefits. They could get much more for him if they were to make that trade prior to the season starting, even though that means losing their best pitcher.
Yeah, I don't expect this to happen. As you said, I think we're probably in agreement that this isn't probably a very good idea for the Diamondbacks. But it depends on what you can get, right? I think any player on the Diamondbacks essentially could be had for a certain price. I don't think anyone on this roster is untouchable. I mean, there's maybe a couple guys. It's like, okay, yeah, you're not trading Corbin Carroll. That's not happening.
Ted DiBiase wasn't wrong. Everybody has their price, Jesse.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's all I had to do.
But there are some reasons to at least consider this, right? Zac Gallen is going to be a free agent next winter. At least that's how things are set up now. With 1 year until free agency, it feels like the window to sign an extension has probably closed. I don't know if there was ever, really a realistic shot at signing an extension. We know that Gallen is a Boris client, and we know how those situations tend to go. So Gallen is very likely going to be a free agent next winter, and he's going to enter the open market, and he is probably going to make a large sum of money. You look at some comparisons for how guys in Gallen's tier have performed in free agency. They've done pretty well. Like Aaron Nola last offseason got 7 years, $172 million from the Phillies. That's a guy who had an ERA of 4.5 in his walk year, and he still got 7 years, $172 million. This offseason,
video game version of him threw 143 pitches in the LDS, so
that's true.
It was worth every dime, Jesse.
Yeah. We all know that Aaron Nola is durable, but he's on another level.
God tier when it comes to durability.
God tier durability for sure. This offseason, I think, will also be very instructive. Corbin Burns and Max Fried are both pretty good comps for Zac Gallen. I know The Athletic has Corbin Burns projected for 7 years, $247 million. They have Max Fried projected for 6 years, $174 million. I'm not going to say it's impossible if the Diamondbacks are willing to make that sort of investment. I think it certainly is possible, but it doesn't feel likely, right? If you're a betting man, I don't think you can look at the contract Zac Gallen is probably going to receive next winter and think that the Diamondbacks are going to be the highest bidder.
It's going to be over $200 million.
Yeah, it's going to be a large sum of money. And so the thinking goes, if you think you might lose a very, very good baseball player in free agency next winter, then do you try to trade him sort of a season early and get as much as you possibly can and set yourself up better for the future, as opposed to just having Gallen walk and just losing one of your best players for nothing?
And we have some, at least, instances of this happening, Jesse, where it went successfully for the team that did so, and not just from 1985. We have instances just from last season where the Padres traded Juan Soto with 1 year left until free agency, and they still went on to win 93 games and arguably became a better team without him. Not saying it's because of that, but it did become, I mean, they did get a very good pitcher in return that ended up helping them win those 93 games. You also
Jurickson and Profar basically becoming Juan Soto also helped.
Actually being better than Juan Soto is crazy. But the Brewers traded Corbin Burns with 1 year till free agency, and they still won their division, right? So, like, it's not to say that you can't still, it's not like a rebuild trading a player of Zac Gallen's caliber. It's not like you're losing everything. And again, the fact that he's going to cost so much and you know you're not going to bring him back is just reason enough to at least have those conversations. It's not to say that the Diamondbacks are in a position right now to not need him. And we're going to talk about all the reasons why this is a stupid idea here in a moment. But I mean, it's just, it would be crazy if the Diamondbacks, you know, again, could find a way to get better while also trading Zac Gallen. One thing we know is that they do kind of have a surplus of starting pitchers. They wouldn't even necessarily need to bring in a new starting pitcher to replace him. If Ryan Nelson can be as good as he was last season, Jordan Montgomery can bounce back, Merrill Kelly can be the mainstay, and Eduardo Rodriguez can get his ERA below 4. Like, that's still a really starting staff with Brandon Pfaadt as a part of it without Zac Gallen. And I mean, at times last season, this team had to figure out a way to proceed without some of their biggest stars, and they still found a way to win games. So I don't know if losing Zac Gallen is the end of the world for, let's say, the 2025 season. I do think that they are currently positioned to still be able to go out there and have a good starting rotation without him. I just don't know if it's as good of a starting rotation without him, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of ifs there, right? It's if Eduardo Rodriguez can bounce back and, you know, be the guy that you hope he would be.
Cannot be the worst pitcher in baseball.
That's it's sort of a big if for Jordan Montgomery to get back to the pitcher he was last year, right? So, and we'll get to that side of the argument here in a second. There are certainly a good number of reasons not to do this. But sticking with the argument in favor of at least considering this, I think one of the other big reasons for me would be that Zac Gallen has not been trending in a positive direction lately.
That's correct.
You look at his 2024 season. We have his stats here. They're not terrible by any means. A 3.65 ERA, a 1.26 WHIP.
It's still crazy to me that this is a bad Zac Gallen season.
Yeah,
right?
148 innings. But yeah, there were some, you know, he got hurt. He had the hamstring injury, missed a couple of starts with other things as well. Or yeah, he threw 148 innings, right? It was not a full season for Zac Gallen. And yeah, 3.65 ERA, like, that's certainly still pretty good. But he has sort of gone in the wrong direction each of the last few years, right? He had an ERA in the mid-2s in 2022. Last year, it was 3.47. This year, it was 3.65. And if you look at now his last 35 regular season starts, I think this goes back to August 28th of last year. He has a 3.93 ERA. And if you include his postseason starts last October, then it's a 4.04 ERA over his past 41 starts, including the playoffs. So, yeah, I think you can make an argument that Gallen, the trade chip, would still be very highly coveted. I feel pretty strongly about that. And at the same time, Gallen, the pitcher, has been good for sure for the Diamondbacks, but he has not been an elite pitcher, at least not going back to the end of last season. It's been a bit of a struggle for him at times. And yeah, you can make a case that this would be the right time to make a move.
I used to think the Diamondbacks were going to steal you away to be part of their like analytics department, but now I'm convinced that they're going to use you in an arbitration manner because the way that you can just so calmly tear someone down is honestly
I'm really
impressive.
Good at tearing people
it's really
down
good.
there.
It's
a talent for
all
sure.
Right. Well, on the other side of this break, we're going to now give you all the reasons why trading away Zac Gallen is a foolish move and you would be an idiot to do so. So, of course, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Of course, if you want to go see some baseball games or any other events, including all this wonderful sports going on right now, we got Suns basketball, we got Cardinals football, so much fun to be had because those teams right now are all very good. You make sure to save last minute with our friends at Game Time. You can save up to 60% off by buying tickets last minute for sports, concerts, and so much more. Of course, Game Time does have a fairly new feature. We've been talking about it for a while, but Game Time Picks is the way to go. If you are not utilizing that, you are wasting your time because it makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff and shows you only the most incredible deals on great seats so that you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Of course, you can also see in Game Time what your view is going to look like from any ticket you purchase, so make sure to check that out. And also, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Jesse, what time is it?
It is game time.
Thank you. Of course, Sanderson Ford is our official vehicle sponsor. And of course, if you are in the market right now for a new vehicle, Sanderson Ford is the place to go. Sanderson Ford is very thankful to have lived and prospered the past 70 years in Glendale, Arizona. They're also thankful for their 500 employees who take care of their customers, making Sanderson Ford America's most awarded Ford dealership for customer service. And they're very thankful for you. So make sure to check out all of the wonderful deals that they have to offer you. They're saying thank you with a Black Friday thank you sale this entire month of November with great offers. You can get new 2024 F-150 trucks with a 3.9% APR financing for 66 months, plus up to $4,000 cash back. Similar savings on over 900 new and pre-owned vehicles on the lot. So don't miss out on the Sanderson Ford Black Friday sale. Of course, it's their way of saying thank you. OAC through Ford Credit, up to $4,000 cash back, requires trade-in of a 95 or newer vehicle. Offer expires November 30th. All right, like we said, we have given you some pretty decent reasons why trading Zac Gallen might be a good idea for the Arizona Diamondbacks. But of course, we have some reasons why they shouldn't do that. And of course, the very first one, Jesse, is that he is Zac Gallen. He is Zac Gallen. He has done so many amazing things for this team. And if the Diamondbacks actually want to have a shot at winning next year and competing for a championship, they need a pitcher of Zac Gallen's caliber. They would have to most likely go out and try to find one. They would maybe, I mean, like we said, they do have 5 starting pitchers, but it depends on how much they trust all of those guys to bounce back. I'm sure fans out there wouldn't trust that to happen. Not for all of those things to happen, not for Ryan Nelson to continue to be good, not for Jordan Montgomery to bounce back, and to have Eduardo Rodriguez bounce back, right? So you might not be feeling great about that. And it would be kind of terrible to be in a position of, say, the Tigers, who trade away a Jack Flaherty, yeah. And then what they really needed when they made a deep run in the playoffs was a Jack Flaherty. So, and I mean, again, if you do trade Gallen, you are probably taking gamble on a less proven player, because even if they do go out and acquire one, it's not going to be someone of that elite tier of starting pitching.
Right. And I think it's worth pointing out, we mentioned the Corbin Burnes comparison from a year ago, which is a very good comparison. I mean, I think Burnes and Gallen are kind of in a similar tier of starting pitcher, and both 1 year till free agency. It is a really similar situation. However, the Diamondbacks are not the Brewers. The Brewers, we talked about it, I think, yesterday. Their pitching apparatus is very impressive. They can, have Colin Ray go out there and have a low 3 ERA for most of the season. And, the Brewers are just really good at finding starting pitchers who can contribute and be productive. The Diamondbacks' recent track record in that regard is not particularly good. They do not have a reputation as being a type of team that can just sort of, whether it be via their farm system or trade or what have you, just find a way to put together a solid rotation. That's not necessarily a strength of this organization. So I think it's a much bigger risk for me for the Diamondbacks to trade Zac Gallen than it was for the Brewers to trade Corbin Burnes. Not that wasn't a big risk. It still was for Milwaukee, and it worked out. But the Diamondbacks equivalent of this is a bit of a different situation.
Well, D.L. Hall was a fairly good pitcher for them. They got him back in the trade for Corbin Burnes, but they also got a controllable infielder in Joey Ortiz, right? So it's like, and a 2024 competitive balance round A pick. It feels like they got quite the haul, and the team didn't really miss a beat, without him.
Right.
I think what this goes back to, and again, even though we talked about how unlikely it is that the Arizona Diamondbacks aren't going to be able to bring Zac Gallen back, especially not, extend him before he enters free agency, but even sign him after that point, is if they do trade him away, that's it. It's over. there's no bringing him back after that point.
That's fair.
Even if
That's
they were
fair.
willing to invest the money in him, the idea of trading him away would probably be enough for Zac Gallen to be soured on the idea of coming back to Arizona. And this doesn't seem like a super desirable landing spot for someone like Gallen. Like, it truly feels like Gallen kind of wants the big stage again. Like, maybe he joins Christian Walker in New York. I don't know, but it's like there's things about Zac Gallen that I think again, the relationship would completely be tarnished should they trade him away. So if you have any intent on even trying to keep him, then this is an idea that you can't even entertain, right? Also, it's just the fact that honestly, like, Zac Gallen is poised to have probably one of his best seasons next year, along with Merrill Kelly
Could totally
and Jordan
happen.
Montgomery. It could happen, and it's going to make us all kick the bed really hard when it happens. You know what I mean? Like, you're just going to kick a piece of furniture in your house. It's probably going to hurt your foot, but it's going to suck to see these guys thrive elsewhere. It's going to especially suck if the Diamondbacks, let's say the Jordan Montgomery situation goes the way that a lot of fans wanted it to go, where he opted out and signed elsewhere in that imaginary situation. Do you still want to see him just go back to being the pitcher he was somewhere else and have to be like, why did he suck with us? Right? Like, that's a hard pill to swallow, right? At least, like we said in a previous show, if Jordan Montgomery can find a way to bounce back, then this entire deal doesn't look nearly as bad. And he has all the incentive in the world to do so. Now, with that being said about him, Zac Gallen has even more incentive, considering we're talking about a player that could get over $250 million next offseason. So he can't really afford to have a bad year. And if he can stay healthy, I don't think he's going to. So I think that incentive alone is enough to run it back this year with a very similar team that's just missing a few components. Try to find some pieces that can, obviously fill those positional needs and maybe make a run at 90 plus wins next year. I don't think that that's out of the question if the pitchers that didn't perform in 2024 can find a way to do so in 2025.
And I guess the other big part of this conversation that we haven't really touched on yet is, what are you getting? If you trade Zac Gallen,
how much are you getting back?
Yeah, how much are you getting, and what position are you targeting? Or I guess could be multiple positions if it's multiple players. Just thinking position player wise, I think
left-handed outfielder. Jesse.
Let's find a 5'10" left-handed. Maybe get Dalton Varsho back. I don't know.
Hey, I don't hate that idea. You want a Gold Glove?
Yes. I mean, just thinking about what the Diamondbacks' needs are. Second base is, I think we can all agree, you're covered there for the foreseeable future. Shortstop, I think you're covered between Geraldo Perdomo and whatever, Jordan Lawler can bring you. Could be a potential star in that position before too long. Catcher, you're obviously covered with Gabriel Moreno. The outfield, I mean, you could upgrade, but it doesn't really feel like a necessity with all the options out there. I think position player wise, third base is the main spot that sticks out to me. However, you just picked up Eugenio Suarez's option. So even though third base, there are questions in the long term, are you going to trade Zac Gallen for a third baseman a year before you actually need one? It doesn't really make any sense. So position player wise, I don't really see any clear fits here. And that leads me, of course, to pitching. And I think that if you are going to make this move, which I don't think the Diamondbacks are, but if they were to explore this, I think what you're looking for is how good of a starting pitcher can I get in exchange for Zac Gallen? A controllable starting pitcher, right? That would be the whole point, would be to get someone that you have control over, who's affordable for multiple years. I think all of us look at the rotation in 2026 and beyond and have some pretty serious questions to ask. And I think that's, one of the bigger cases in favor of trading Gallen is that he could be that trade chip that can get you a controllable starter that you really like for the future. That's something that Mike Hazen lamented. He didn't have the trade pieces to do that at the trade deadline this year. The Diamondbacks looked at controllable starting pitching at the deadline, as I think they pretty much always do. But Mike said we just didn't really have the pieces to line up with anyone. Zac Gallen could be the piece that gets you that player who could be here for a long time.
The Padres I still can't believe the haul that they got for Juan Soto.
Yeah.
And
The
again,
D-backs wouldn't get that much for Zac Gallen.
no, they wouldn't, because it's obviously he's not, that big of a name as Juan Soto. But man, when you talk about the season that the Padres had, you look back at the contributions from the guys that they got, you kind of see that they really did get a great deal. And then, especially if Juan Soto now walks and goes to a team other than the Yankees after this season, if he goes to the Mets, goes to a different team, like, my God, that ends up looking like an absolute steal in the long term for the Padres. And maybe the Yankees gave up too much, considering that they just fell short, especially felt like they could have really used Michael King there in the playoffs a little bit, right? With how good he was for the Padres this season. I think when I take a look at the starting rotation of Merrill Kelly, Eduardo Rodriguez, Brandon Pfaadt, Ryan Nelson, Jordan Montgomery, I'm not blown away by that. And I think that's another main reason why, again, Zac Gallen gives them a lot of flexibility when it comes to, if any one of these guys don't perform, then there's a replacement for them as long as they all stay healthy. The idea of competition, even within the own starting rotation, helps keep guys at the top of their game. It's a fact. So the fact that they have 6 capable starters and are only going to go with 5 is in theory, once again, in theory, it's only in theory, because we can't bet on these guys being any better than they were last year right now. But in theory, it should make this starting rotation better. So by all accounts, this team should have solid starting pitching next year. And with Zac Gallen a part of it, it really does make it a much more dangerous starting rotation than the one I just discussed. So, I mean, there are so many reasons not to do it, but I don't think that there are no reasons to not to listen to offers.
Yeah, absolutely.
There might be a team that feels like their best way of signing Zac Gallen next offseason is by making a trade for him now, right? And if that's the case, that team might be willing to give up way more than they should in order to get him. And that's the only instance where the Diamondbacks should really be considering offers on Zac Gallen, if there's just this absolute haul on the table for them. And like you said, they're most likely, with just 1 year left on his deal and free agency right around the corner, that's probably not going to happen. And I don't know if another franchise is going to see Zac Gallen as that same type of, team changing player that Juan Soto is viewed as.
Right. Yeah. It would definitely be less than the return for Soto. No doubt there. I also think about, the Diamondbacks want to make the playoffs next year, whether they have Zac Gallen or they don't. That's going to be their goal. They're not going to, try to tear the team down and rebuild or anything. That's certainly not happening. So you have to think about not only what does your rotation look like in the regular season, but what does your rotation look like in the playoffs? Are you comfortable with a, Merrill Kelly game 1, Brandon Pfaadt game 2, Ryan Nelson game 3, Eduardo, whatever that looks like? It's a lot more convincing with Zac Gallen at the top. And, I know Gallen didn't necessarily pitch the best during the postseason last year. It felt like the Diamondbacks went on the run they did more in spite of him than anything else at times. But he still had his moments, and you still feel better about pitching Zac Gallen in a postseason game than a whole lot of starters in this league. And I think other teams would feel the same way as well.
And honestly, it's time for Gallen to put up or shut up in a way, right? There's going to be pressure on him, and wherever he goes, whatever big market team potentially that has the money to sign him for that much is going to be a big stage where the pressure is going to constantly be on you. We've questioned at times if this team is actually able to perform under pressure. It felt like at times this season they weren't. It felt like when the spotlight was the brightest, they kind of folded, right? So Gallen has a chance here to prove in 2025 to whatever team that would give him that ungodly amount of money that he's worth it and that he's going to perform when the lights are brightest. And so again, this is just as much for him in 2025 as it is for the team. From that standpoint, I want a desperate man on my team. I want a man that's gonna leave it all on the field this season in order to try to get that huge paycheck. And I just think that that's another reason why trading Gallen is a mistake, right? But again, you got to be willing to hear it out. And I think that even there are trades that would make even us as fans go, oh, okay, I would take that. Like you want to give it, you want to make it that one-sided for the Diamondbacks, then yes, I would be willing to give him up for that. But again, teams haven't really been offering that kind of haul as often, and they don't really want to give up assets. So it'd be interesting to see what they actually got offered. But we'll never know, most likely.
For 1 year of Zac Gallen, I think teams will be willing to offer. I think you could get like a really interesting young pitcher with a lot of control, maybe someone who's pitched in the majors a little bit but isn't super well established. But yeah, like if you do that, I mean, we talked about the Burns trade. Like DL Hall wasn't particularly good for the Brewers this year. Joey Ortiz contributed a lot. He's an outstanding defender, but DL Hall was pretty shaky for them. And even though I still think DL Hall's future is bright, the Diamondbacks, if they did get a young pitcher for Gallen, it's not necessarily going to be someone who you feel great, feel great about as a mid-rotation starter or whatever right away. And so I don't know if from a timeline standpoint, it really makes a lot of sense.
DL Hall might be one of those guys where they sold high on him because he had a 3.26 ERA in 2023 with the Baltimore Orioles in a very, very limited capacity in 19 and a third innings pitch. But again, when you kind of see that season, it makes it that much more tempting to receive him as an asset in return for someone like Corbin Burns. And again, if you see that, you think maybe he's capable of getting back there. I don't know if he is for a full season, but he is definitely a talented pitcher that could end up being, part of their rotation for the long term. Corbin Burns wasn't happy, and that was like almost a good situation, I felt like, for them to get out of anyway. This is different. I don't think Zac Gallen is dissatisfied with being here.
No.
And I honestly think that there are, I don't know what the reaction to losing Brent Strom is, but I think there might be just at least a little bit of excitement in regards to who the Diamondbacks could bring and how that person could help all of these guys get better, because I think that's what they all personally want, right? They want a pitching coach that can come in and do something for them that helps them get back on track and puts up the best numbers of their career at a very important time. So that's going to be interesting. I'm still kind of wondering, especially considering we talked about the timeline when the Diamondbacks will make that hiring. Can't be too long from now.
I would think it'd be pretty soon.
Right, because they do have to, I imagine that they would want that person's input on maybe any, moves they make. I know it's like Torey says, they don't do what Torey says. They do get his input on it, though. Like, they do ask him his opinion before making moves. So
Brent Strom shared with us at one point, I think this was last season, that he had been on some Zoom calls with some different pitchers that the Diamondbacks were thinking of bringing in. So that is a real thing. If you know who your pitching coach is, then, I don't know if it's necessarily a recruitment tool as much as it is just kind of getting some familiarity and sort of seeing what kind of fit there could be between the pitching coach and the pitcher. But that is a real thing. So yeah, I do think the Diamondbacks are probably going to want to finalize some of these coaching decisions sooner than later.
Well, people are asking me to be happier here on the chat. I think Sean says, Derek, can we get a smile? It doesn't have to be genuine, but I'm getting bummed out.
We can hate on Tucson a little bit. You want to hate on Tucson?
We're not going to do that. Instead, what we're going to talk about taking a much better road trip than going to Tucson. We're going to talk about going to Las Vegas. We all should do it, and tickets are on sale for a very fun 2-game set in Las Vegas. Right now, actually, they went on sale about 2 hours ago. We're going to talk about it on the other side of this break, and hopefully you guys join us. Not on the other side of this break. We want you to join us for the road trip. Let's all get a big car and take a trip. Let's go. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this break. Someone in our chat asked about trivia, and yes, of course, I will be out at Chicken and Pickle tomorrow night for the PHNX Trivia Night. We're going to have so much fun. Right now, you can get down for free, register for free. We're going to have all sorts of prizes from us, prizes from Chicken and Pickle. And of course, if you've never been to Chicken and Pickle, it's the best time to check it out because this facility is incredible. It's an indoor-outdoor entertainment complex. It has amazing food. Most importantly, it has dozens of pickleball courts, indoor courts, outdoor courts. It's an absolute blast if you've never played the game, and it is your chance to not only come hang out with us and maybe win some prizes, but also check out all the wonderful things Chicken and Pickle has to offer. You can say goodbye to interrupting your sporting game when you're hanging out basketball courts, hanging out pickleball courts. You don't want to stop to eat. You don't have to. They'll bring you your food there. And of course, if you're new to pickleball, you can get down on the newbie nights, which will not only teach you the game, but get you around some other newbies to play. And you also get a $10 Chicken and Pickle gift card. So head to chickenandpickle.com to see what all the fun is about and all the fun you can have at their Glendale location. And head to our website for you to find out more on that trivia event. Also, of course, speaking about having fun, Rugged Road Coolers is dedicated to creating innovative and durable outdoor gear for adventurers who demand the absolute best. And they make some coolers that will go with you wherever you need to go, whether it's in the water because they're floatable, whether you just go hiking with them. They are super lightweight, and unlike other heavy coolers, incredibly light, making them easy to transport on any trip without compromising on performance. And of course, they're very durable for all of that outdoor activity, crafted to handle the toughest environments. So get ready for adventures with Rugged Road Coolers. Head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use code PHNX for 10% off your order. Lightweight, durable, and always floating upright. Perfect on land or in water. So leave that heavy cooler at home and get yourself a better cooler for the new season. Rugged Road, your ultimate outdoor companion. And I'll tell you this much, Jesse. When going to Las Vegas, sometimes you get stuck dragging your heavy cooler that you brought that's filled with your own alcohol because you don't want to pay $20 for a pina colada by the pool in it around a hotel in Las Vegas. And you don't want to do that with a heavy cooler. Do it with a light one. And I'm only bringing this up because I just want to go to Las Vegas. That's the point I'm trying to make here. And I'm going to take this guy with me because we found a way to appeal to both of us. And that is that next year, we are having spring training games in Las Vegas between the Oakland Athletics and the Arizona Diamondbacks at Las Vegas Ballpark, where the Aviators currently play. They went on sale actually today to the open public at noon. You can go over to the website of the Aviators and purchase those tickets right now for 2025 Big League Weekend at Las Vegas Ballpark. Those games will be played on March 8th and March 9th next year, and it is our first chance ever to take a road trip to go see the Arizona Diamondbacks play baseball in Las Vegas. This will be the first game that the Oakland A's actually ever play in Las Vegas, so it's history, Jesse.
Derek, you got to stop saying Oakland A's.
I'm not going to stop saying Oakland A's.
You're not allowed to do that
What
anymore.
are they right now? What is their name right now?
They're just the A's, man. They're just the A's. Just the Athletics.
Yeah, you're right. We won't call them the Oakland A's anymore. Actually, it doesn't even on the website. It just says Athletics. So they're trying to avoid that as much as possible.
I think it was made official within the last few days or something that Oakland is officially not a part of the title because they don't play there anymore.
I don't like that at all.
That's
like asking me to call Twitter X. I'm never going to do it. So I'll still call them Oakland A's.
I feel like but it's a little different because Oakland is like they don't play, like they're not actually going to play games there.
Right. Should we call them the Sacramento A's?
Yeah, like I'd feel better about that.
I will call them the Sacramento
I'd feel better about
A's.
that.
I'm not going to call them the Las Vegas A's yet. We still don't even know if that's going to happen.
That's fair.
I was there when they were imploding the Tropicana, by the way. So it's like I've been there almost every step of the way. I need to go to this series of games, which, of course, is a great way to go spend some time in Las Vegas and see baseball. And that's what this whole thing is going to be, right? Like once the A's are in Las Vegas, it's gonna we think it's rough for opposing fans to take over our stadium. Oh my God.
It's gonna
Wait
be rough.
until what you see what the Las Vegas A's are gonna have to deal with. It's the same thing the Raiders deal with, where it's just every weekend is a weekend for opposing fans to take a vacation, come into town and just invade that stadium over there across the freeway.
I mean, do you think during the summertime, like what are the demographics like in Vegas during the summer? Would that be a time where it would be
it's
more
hot.
tourists or less tourists, do you think?
It's Las Vegas. There's never a time when there aren't people in town.
Okay.
I mean, people
So there's always tourists, and then the people who actually live there are going to be gone.
Right, yeah,
so
exactly.
that doesn't bode well.
It doesn't bode well. And honestly, you also have the fact that, like I said, when they did implode the Tropicana, hotel rooms, Jesse, were like $2,000 a night in that south area of the Strip because people wanted to watch the Tropicana implode from their hotel rooms. And that's just a for instance. That was just a Wednesday in Las Vegas, right?
So you're saying people just literally want to watch the world burn. Well, that's basically what you're saying.
Oh God, Jesse, are you kidding me? That is, if there is no other day that is the truth, it's today. But yes, no, people do actually want to watch the world burn, and they wanted to watch that hotel collapse, and they paid a lot of money to do so. I'm just saying, my point being is that there's always something to do in Las Vegas every single weekend. There's always conventions going on. There's always something. So it's hard to say if there's a is there an influx of tourists? I mean, I would imagine during the winter, because Las Vegas is still the desert. It's still unpleasant. I've been on the Strip in July and wanting nothing more than to not be on the Strip in July. So it's just more about the fact that, like, again, like I'm saying, I saw this opportunity. Tickets are $30. They start at $30 at least. I'm on it. I'm all about it. I'm dragging you there. We're going, right? Like, so this is just the first example to me of how people, I think, are going to react when they see that their team is playing in Oakland, especially when you talk about us all around, all around it.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting. I do hope we have a chance to go out there. It's 2 days, right? March 8th, March 9th. And it will be the first time that the A's play in Vegas, right? And again, we don't know. I'm not sure it's quite so secure that they wind up playing there, at least not as secure as some people would maybe lead you to believe. But it does seem like the A's are going to move to Vegas eventually, and this will be an introduction of sorts for that team to that fan base. I guess, just the people there. I don't know if there's really a fan base at this point.
Yeah,
I guess
I don't either, because like it feels like, from what I've read, that a lot of people in Las Vegas don't want this, despite the fact that, like, they've just had this boom of sports teams appearing in their town over the last 10 years plus, right? And so, like, I don't know why they would be necessarily opposed to this, other than there's a lot of money, I think, from taxpayers and stuff being expected to pay, or from public funds. And of course, just like in any city, people don't like that on a facility like this that's going to make the money that this facility is especially going to make long term. I do think it's a bit greedy, and I'm sure that's why there's a lot of opposition to it. I know we talked about it in the past, but there was a whole teachers group that's against it, considering how much they want to, spend publicly on that, but not spend on education in the city, or in Nevada. So there's a lot of complicated things, and there are still a lot of, I guess, hurdles that they're going to need to get past in order for them to have this stadium in baseball, or to have the stadium in Las Vegas. But regardless of that, these games are happening. So make sure that if you want to go to Las Vegas to see the Diamondbacks essentially play in a historic series against the Sacramento A's, make sure to go get your tickets right now and join me and Jesse. I guarantee there's no way you're keeping us away from that. So we will be there 100% for sure.
It'd be more interesting to me, I think, if it was happening in Sacramento. Like if these games were actually being played at the facility where the A's are going to play, half of their 2025 season. But it still should be interesting. We don't really see this kind of thing happen. Like, spring training games aren't really moved to, I guess we've had some spring training games played internationally, I think, in years past.
Sure.
But we don't usually see spring training games just sort of randomly played at minor league ballparks in other states. But yeah, it should be fascinating.
I can't wait. And I mean, it's a nice ballpark, the Aviators ballpark.
Yes,
so,
it is.
It's going to be a whole lot of fun. And again, it's also going to be history. I think that's just kind of fun to be a part of the first Major League Baseball game, even though it's still a spring training game that's taking place there in Las Vegas. So cool that the Diamondbacks are a part of it. And like I said, check out the Aviators website right now for you to get your tickets. Well, that's all we got today. We will be back tomorrow with the one and only Archie Bradley joining us.
Yes.
He'll be taking Jesse Jr.'s spot on the set, so make sure to join us for that. And that also means that we'll be having another Die Hard only edition of Ask Archie. So make sure to get us those questions in the Die Hard chat. If you're not a Die Hard, you're missing out. Go to gophnx.com right now and sign up to become one. Of course, we thank you so much for stopping by, whether you're a Die Hard or not. You can follow us on Twitter. I am at @cap_caveman with a K. This maniac next to me is at Jesse N. Friedman. Of course, Large Intimate, Kevin Thomas, is at Kev Tom Writes. You can figure out how that's spelled on your own. That's a fun little puzzle for all of you. Of course, our show is at PHNX_DBacks, but all roads do lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You got anything else?
That's all I got.
That's all I got too. I'm done. I'm done. But we'll see you tomorrow with more, and maybe Archie will make me smile a little more tomorrow. Of course, until then, we hope you guys have a wonderful evening. We hope you all enjoy yourselves. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when you drag Jesse on a road trip to Las Vegas.
We all silly like the mayor.